Have you ever wondered why we celebrate New Year's? Let's delve into the fascinating history behind this global celebration. Our story begins in ancient Babylon, over 4,000 years ago. The Babylonians were the first to celebrate the new year, although for them, it wasn't on January 1st, but rather in mid-March. Why March, you ask? Well, that was when they planted their new crops, marking a new cycle of growth and therefore a new year. Fast forward a few centuries to the Roman Empire, where we meet Julius Caesar. He shook things up a bit. In 46 BC, Caesar introduced the Julian calendar, which closely resembles the one we use today. He moved the start of the new year to January 1st in honor of the Roman god Janus, the deity of beginnings and transitions. With two faces, Janus could look back into the past and forward into the future, a fitting symbol for the start of a new year, don't you think? But not everyone was on board with this change. In fact, it took quite some time for the rest of the world to catch up with Caesar's new calendar. It wasn't until 1582, with the introduction of the Gregorian calendar under Pope Gregory XIII, that January 1st was universally recognized as the start of the new year, and even then some cultures chose to stick with their traditional New Year celebrations. So while we might think of January 1st as an arbitrary date, it's actually steeped in history and tradition. From the Babylonians' new crop cycle to Caesar's homage to Janus, the celebration of the new year has always signified a fresh start, a chance to look back on the past and look forward to the future. So, the next time you're cheering at the stroke of midnight, remember, you're partaking in a tradition that has survived thousands of years. From dropping a ball in Times Square to smashing plates in Denmark, New Year's traditions are as diverse as the cultures that uphold them. And isn't it fascinating how these traditions, some ancient, some relatively new, bring us together in the spirit of celebration? Let's take a journey around the globe to explore some of these vibrant customs. First stop, Spain. As the clock strikes midnight, Spaniards engage in an amusing tradition of eating 12 grapes, one for each chime of the clock. It's believed that this practice brings good luck for the 12 months ahead. Quite a fun and fruity start to the year, wouldn't you say? Next we head to Japan, where the end of the year is marked by an enchanting bell-ringing ceremony. Precisely at midnight, Buddhist temples across the country strike their bells 108 times. This is said to cleanse the 108 earthly desires believed to cause human suffering. Now there's a tradition that truly rings in the new year. Our journey doesn't end there. Let's fly over to Scotland, where they celebrate Hogmanay, a grand end-of-the-year festival. One of the unique customs includes the first footing, where the first person to enter a home after midnight is expected to bring good fortune for the coming year. And they often arrive bearing symbolic gifts like coal, shortbread, or whiskey. Talk about a warm welcome. From the grape-filled festivities of Spain to the resonant bells of Japan and the hearty Hogmanay in Scotland, we've seen how these traditions, in their own unique ways, encapsulate the hope and joy of welcoming a new beginning. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are countless other cultures with their own fascinating New Year's customs waiting to be explored. So, if you thought your New Year's party was exciting, imagine being in another part of the world. It's New Year's somewhere, right? But not everyone rings in the new year on January 1st. Take a moment to ponder that not all cultures operate on the Gregorian calendar, the one we're most familiar with, that starts on January 1st and ends on December 31st. Interestingly enough, other cultures have their own unique calendars, and consequently, celebrate New Year's on different dates. Let's begin with the Chinese Lunar New Year, also known as the Spring Festival. Falling anywhere between January 21st and February 20th, it marks the start of a new lunar year based on the Chinese calendar, which is lunisolar. This means it incorporates both lunar phases and the solar year. It's a time of family gatherings, feasts, and the famous dragon dances. Now, let's hop across to the Middle East. The Islamic New Hijri year, also known as Islamic New Year, is celebrated on the first day of Muharram, the first month in the Islamic lunar calendar. Unlike the Gregorian and Chinese calendars, the Islamic calendar is purely lunar, which means the date shifts about 11 days earlier each year. We then journey to the Jewish community who observe Rosh Hashanah, marking the start of their civil year. It's usually celebrated in September or October depending on the Hebrew calendar, which is lunisolar like the Chinese calendar. The holiday is observed with prayer services and festive meals. There are many more calendars and New Year's celebrations out there, each with their unique traditions and customs. From the Ethiopian Enkutataash in September to the Thai Songkran in April, the world is a symphony of diverse New Year's celebrations. Despite the many calendars and dates, What unites us is the core sentiment behind these celebrations. Be it January 1st or any other day of the year, New Year's universally symbolizes a fresh start, a new beginning, and a chance to set new goals. Remember, while we might not celebrate at the same time, the sentiment of hope and renewal is universal. Ever wondered who we have to thank for our modern calendar? It's not as straightforward as you might think. Once upon a time, in the days of ancient Rome, the calendar consisted of 10 months and 304 days, starting in March. But as you can imagine, that left a lot of unaccounted time. To solve this, around 713 BC, King Numa Pompilius added 2 months, January and February, to the beginning of the year. Fast forward to 46 BC, and Julius Caesar, a man of many hats, decided to don his astronomer cap. Caesar introduced the Julian calendar, which was remarkably similar to what we use today. It had 12 months, 365 days, and a leap year every 4 years. But there was a tiny glitch. The Julian calendar overestimated the length of the solar year by 11 minutes and 14 seconds. That doesn't seem like much, but over centuries, those minutes added up, causing significant calendar drift. So, in 1582, Pope Gregory XIII, aided by astronomers, introduced a new calendar, aptly named the Gregorian calendar. It tweaked the formula for determining leap years to correct the drift. But the world didn't all switch over at once. Different countries adopted the Gregorian calendar at different times, often for political or religious reasons. For instance, Britain and its colonies didn't make the switch until 1752. Russia held out until 1918, and Greece didn't adopt the Gregorian calendar until 1923. Today, the Gregorian calendar is the most widely used civil calendar across the globe. But it's not the only one. Many cultures, religions, and countries still use other calendars for various purposes. So the story of our modern calendar is a tale of astronomy, politics, religion, and time itself. It's a testament to human ingenuity and our timeless pursuit to understand and measure the cosmos. So the next time you glance at your calendar, think about the centuries of astronomical calculations and political maneuvering that went into its creation. So what have we learned about this global celebration that kickstarts our year? Quite a bit, in fact. We've journeyed through time and across cultures to uncover the fascinating origins and traditions of New Year's celebrations. We've discovered that the concept of celebrating a new year isn't a modern invention, but rather, it dates back some 4,000 years to the ancient Babylonians. They didn't ring in their new year with champagne and fireworks, but with a massive religious festival called Akitu. And they didn't do it in January either, but rather in mid-March, in sync with the spring equinox. As we traveled around the globe, we found that different cultures have their own unique ways of welcoming the new year. From the vibrant water fights in Thailand during Songkran, to the solemn first sunrise observance in Japan's Hatsumode, to the raucous Hogmanay celebrations in Scotland, New Year's traditions are as diverse as the cultures they come from. We've also learned that not everyone rings in the new year on the 1st of January. While most of the world follows the Gregorian calendar, there are many cultures that celebrate New Year's on different dates. The Chinese New Year, for instance, falls between January 21st and February 20th, depending on the lunar calendar, and the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, happens in September or October. And speaking of the Gregorian calendar, we've delved into its history and how it came to be the globally accepted standard for marking the passage of time. Thanks to the efforts of Pope Gregory XIII in the late 16th century, we have our modern calendar with its familiar 12 months and 365 days, give or take a leap day. As we count down to the new year, we're not just celebrating a date change, but a rich tapestry of history, culture, and shared hope. So here's to the coming year, filled with promise and potential. Happy New Year!